Hello and welcome to another episode of Moose's Gear Goo Review. I'm Moose, and today we got another knife review. And that knife is a big one. This is the Kershaw Piston. Kershaw Piston. What a big folder. Just awesome. So, the Kershaw Piston. I'll go through some specs and then we'll get into the knife. So the Kershaw Piston, the overall length is 8.5 inches. The blade length is 3.5 inches. The handle length is 5 inches. The weight on it is 4 ounces, which for a knife this size is pretty impressive. And we'll talk about that And the blade steel on this is 14C28N, so it's a Sandvik steel. Kershaw's actually done a really good job with Sandvik steel, and it's been in a lot of their, I'd say, better built knives. But, you know, times are changing and new steels are coming out, so I think they're starting to transition to some other premier steels. But for a time in the 2000s, Sandvik was kind of the go-to steel for them, and they did a really good job with it. So pretty cool. So let's talk about this. So overall blade shape, it is considered a drop point. It has a false swedge up there, which helps with reducing drag when slicing through things. And because the length of the blade is 3.5 inches, this could really be a good slicer, good for food prep or anything else like that. It is a stonewash blade with a flat grind, which I love. Flat grinds are really awesome. And then it also has a plain edge blade, and you can see the belly. So you got a good solid straight edge of blade there before it curves up, which is really nice. There are two main ways of deploying. You either have thumb studs, which are on either side, making it a dual opening. Then it has a flipper as well. So the thumb studs, boom, and then the flipper, which is awesome. It does operate on the speed-safe assisted opening mechanism, which I think it's starting to slow down. This is a little bit of an older knife, and I believe they don't even make the knife anymore. So if you can find one of these, definitely hold on to it, because it is going to only be more collectible as time goes on. Hopefully they end up remaking it, because it is a really excellent knife. It has a choil towards the back here, which allows you to sharpen the complete length of the blade, which is always nice on a knife, especially if you're going to be using it a lot. It is a liner lock, so once the blade is deployed, the liner will shoot in. And as you can see, this liner is only operating at about 20 or about 35%. So you got plenty of lock still left in this blade. Moving into the handle is very ergonomic. It fits large size hands really well. You got to remember the handle length itself is 5 inches. So for those guys with bigger hands, this knife would work really well. You have that good finger choil there that flows into the guard, and it locks it in really well. Like, you're not going to accidentally slip up and have your hand slip onto the blade. Though I wish there was some jimping on the back of the handle / blade would have helped. The handle material, which is one of the nicer features of it, is 2 thick pieces of black G-10. G-10 is a really good handle material. It doesn't absorb fluid, liquids or anything like that. And it's very durable. And also it's very strong for its weight. So it's a very lightweight thing, and that's the thing that really makes this knife pretty impressive. Now, there are no steel liners in it. There is a small pocket cut into the G10 handle scale to hide the speed-safe assisted opening mechanism, as well as holding the liner lock mechanism. But other than that, it's all G10, including the back spacer. As you can see, there's a hidden lanyard post there, which gives it really clean lines, but for those lanyard people, you do have an option to get a lanyard in there. So without steel liners, it's all G10, which makes the knife really light for the size. I believe other knives this size would actually weigh 5 ounces, but this thing only weighs 4 ounces. So yeah, really cool. Once again, the blade steel is HCR13, or not HCR13. It's Sandvik 14C28N, which is really good, and it's a very good steel for the price. Moving into the pocket clip, this is one of the faults where they could have done better, but it's not bad. It's a small, kind of unique styled pocket clip, but the nice thing is it is 4-way positionable, tip up, tip down, left, right carry, which is really nice for those people who want a ambidextrous knife or like different carry options. So pretty cool. So with that said, let's compare it to some other knives that we might know. I would consider this to be a large folder, so I'm comparing it to some of the other large folders I have. So we have the Piston, we have the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, we have the Spyderco Pacific Salt, and then we have the H&K Access. Now, as far as blade lengths, I lined them all up with the top of their handles. Now, the top of their handles can be a little bit misleading because, as you can see, the piston kind of, in a decorative way, extends a little bit beyond where the pivot is. But, overall, they're pretty similar in size. Handle-wise, the only other handle that comes close to it would be these three. So you got the Pacific Salt and the Paramilitary 2. So they have similar handle sizes and blade lengths. The Pacific Salt seems to be the longest blade out of all of these knives. So just to see some comparisons as far as blade thickness, I'd say it's about the same as the Paramilitary, the Piston, and the Pacific Salt. The Piston is thicker than the Pacific Salt. And this one's close, but I'd say the HK Access is thicker than the Piston. So finally, the last test I have for this knife is the ugly brown glove test. So I do this test to see if these knives are usable with bulkier cloth gloves. Because the entire handle is made of G10, and it is kind of a cloth textured, there is some good grip, as well as those milled out stylized segments. It does add a decent amount of grip, so I have a sure grip when deploying the knife. There is no jimping on the flipper, but it has an upward curve, which makes it easy to lock your finger in there to deploy it. And then there is jimping on the thumb studs, so you have a sure grip there to deploy it. With it open, my finger sits right in that finger choil, and the flipper becomes the guard. And I can tell you, it's locked in there really tight. I know my hand's not going to slip up. The only thing, again, is that I wish there was some jimping to ensure a thumb grip if I'm holding like this. But if with a hammer grip, it's locked in there, especially with this curve at the bottom. My pinky locks in there and really holds it tight. As far as closing, I have enough real estate on that liner lock to deploy or disengage the lock and close it. So boom. My only thing I'd say is for people with smaller hands, this might not be the knife for you, just because you have to be able to get over and make sure that you can close it one-handed or not. And I know there's better options, like the Kershaw Camber, if you have smaller hands. And these two have very similar features, so check that out. So yeah, definitely passes the ugly brown glove test. I'd say 95% on that. So overall, really cool knife, super lightweight, and definitely one you'd want in your collection. And if you have two of these, you could actually probably use, this would be a great user as well. But I believe they stopped making this knife, so But either way, enjoy it whatever way you want it. Check it out. You can find links to other knives and knife reviews that I have, like the Four Horsemen, and by clicking the eye in the upper right hand corner. Other than that, like, subscribe, and comment, and give me a thumbs up or whatever the heck they tell you to do. And I'll see you guys outside.